Video games haven't always been as we know them. The fancy graphics, cinematic gameplay experiences, and of course online multiplayer that we've all become accustomed to, didn't always exist throughout the history of gaming. You're watching Gamerbrain, and today on the show we're taking a look at the top 10 video games that changed the industry. Number 10. E.T. the Extraterrestrial for the Atari 2600. While this game is commonly found on top 10 lists for the worst video games of all time, E.T. on the 2600 can be considered an instrumental game in video game history. The game was developed in only 5 weeks by then Atari programmer Howard Scott Warshaw, and although the game isn't very good, it remains an important lesson to industry professionals. E.T. was one of the many contributing factors that led to the North American video game crash of 1983, and the game became sort of responsible for what many believed was the early grave of the video game industry in North America. Although this failure definitely allowed Japan to take the lead and become even more successful in the video game industry than it had ever been before. One company in particular would rise from the ashes of Atari and change video games as we know them. Number 9. World of Warcraft. While the WoW series may not be every gamer out there's favorite, the success of World of Warcraft definitely can't go unnoticed. Since the game came out, there have been a ton of MMORPGs that have attempted to cash in on the genre, but World of Warcraft will always stand over the rest for bringing the genre into the mainstream gaming realm. WoW brought with it the old school players of the genre, who were itching to explore a vast new wilderness, along with a whole new generation of players that were looking to play something new. For better or for worse, World of Warcraft also helped establish the pay-to-play model that is popular in many of the games that we see today, and the game presented a huge shift in the way companies present their games to us today. Overall, the WoW series set the precedent for games to come in the future, and when online gaming wasn't as popular as it is now, World of Warcraft was there going strong. Number 8. Final Fantasy VII. Many gamers consider this to be one of the greatest games on the PlayStation 1, and not only that, but one of the greatest games of all time. Final Fantasy VII sits as a fan favorite in the franchise, and has become a game that has shifted an entire generation of gamers that may have been unfamiliar with the traditional JRPG genre. Prior to Final Fantasy VII, all the games in the series had been released on Nintendo consoles, and the decision to stick with cartridges on the N64 by Nintendo forced Square Enix to switch over to the rival Sony console in favor of a larger storage capacity on a disc as opposed to cartridges. This presented a giant leap in gaming that with more storage space to work with, games could be more immersive and overall better quality than ever before. Pair that with Final Fantasy VII introducing many to the world of JRPGs, and it's easy to see why this game cracks our list. Number 7. The Last of Us. The Last of Us is the most recent game on our list, and it very clearly changed the gaming industry right before our eyes. The game shined a light on how a great game can be defined by insanely well-written characters and storylines, because if you think about it, The Last of Us is certainly just the first in a long line of games that will focus on realistic, relatable characters in realistic worlds. That's not to say that video game storylines were bad before this game was released, it's just that the game changed the way we as players look at the story and characters in a game world for the better, while giving developers the go-ahead to give us more content within a game to make the experience that much greater. The Last of Us was a game packed full of content, and it really showed us gamers that the sky really is the limit for future video game releases. Number 6. Metal Gear Solid, PlayStation 1. Just as the Sony PlayStation was ramping in popularity, Hideo Kojima's Metal Gear Solid series hit the console. The intricate plot and unique level design were a big part of what made the game so appealing to players, which set the precedent for future stealth and survival games. Metal Gear Solid made it possible for future games like Uncharted and Max Payne to exist, as well as the Splinter Cell series, and the third-person genre of gaming was truly defined with the first 3D Metal Gear game. It was the first step in showing that games and movies could exist in the same realm, and it provided gamers with a truly cinematic experience within a video game. Metal Gear Solid not only goes down as one of the greatest games of all time, but one of the most influential games out there. Number 5. The Sims. While the SimCity series was unique in its own right, The Sims changed expectations for video games, where there really was no way to win, and you couldn't finish the game no matter how many hours you put into it. The player did well based on how much time they could devote to the game itself, and the series created an entire new breed of gamers, and also appealed to people who may not have played a video game before in the past, but all of them were fascinated by the life of their sim avatar. While other games in the past had blurred the line between real life and a video game, The Sims was a whole different extension of that, because The Sims really pushed the life simulation genre into the mainstream, and there was a real devotion and real feelings that went into the players' avatars, as they often felt like they were an extension of themselves. If anything, The Sims brought in new gamers that may not have ever played video games before, and the series really is something that everybody can enjoy. Number 4. Grand Theft Auto 3. While yes, Grand Theft Auto 5 was an amazing video game in itself, if it wasn't for its older brother Grand Theft Auto 3, then we wouldn't be where we are today in the form of the open world genre. As the player, you were dropped in the rough, crime-ridden streets of Liberty City, and Grand Theft Auto 3 put you in the role of a thug that used the city as his own personal playground of violence. At the time, as a gamer, Grand Theft Auto 3 was one of the biggest open world experiences that we had ever seen, and it was awesome to be free to do whatever you wanted in what was at the time this giant open world. Much like Super Mario 64 before it, Rockstar North took a game that had traditionally been in one perspective and flipped that formula on its head. The top-down perspective that the game series was known for was replaced with a gigantic 3D world that was yours as the player to explore. And little did us gamers know that we were about to experience the open world revolution that was going on within gaming at the time. Before Grand Theft Auto 3, open world games were definitely hit or miss, and this one set the standard for open world games as we know them. We definitely wouldn't see some of the games that we've seen in the past if it wasn't for this game. Number 3. Wolfenstein 3D. id Software's Wolfenstein series hit the PC scene in 1992 like a ton of bricks and is considered by many gamers as being the originator of the FPS genre. This PC game featured an American soldier in his attempt to escape a Nazi prison, filled with enemy fighters, crazed dogs, and who could forget the weird, biomechanical Hitler that also awaited you. Wolfenstein 3D pioneered the formula for many of the first-person shooters we see today, and heavily influenced later games like Doom and the Call of Duty series. If it wasn't for Wolfenstein 3D, we wouldn't see many of the first-person shooters that we enjoy today, and this game definitely goes down as one of the most influential games out there. Number 2. Super Mario 64. In 1996, video games were at kind of a weird point where graphics were progressing and moving away from the traditional 2D style, but developers weren't quite sure whether to dive in headfirst into 3D gaming or just dip their toes into the water. Many hadn't quite perfected the formula, and that is until Nintendo came along with Super Mario 64. This game did for the genre what Super Mario Bros. Did for 2D platforming, making it a necessary entry on our list, because without it we wouldn't see the analog control, polished camera systems, and 3D characters that we see today. If it wasn't for Super Mario 64, then we wouldn't see future games like Banjo-Kazooie, Ratchet & Clank, and much, much more. Number 1. Super Mario Bros. NES. If you've been living under a rock for the past few decades, then maybe you haven't seen or played Super Mario Bros., which was Nintendo's classic side-scroller that made the Nintendo Entertainment System a must-have console. The game showed that video games at home could be more than just a paddle and a ball, going back and forth for eternity. This game really set the standard for not only platformers, but all video games to come after it. But its industry impact doesn't stop there. The idea of cartoony mascots full of attitude, which is very 90s, I know, but it took over the gaming scene at the time and inspired many of the characters that we see in gaming today. This game goes down as my pick for the single most influential game out there, and it really gave gaming the kickstart it needed to become mainstream. I felt this game was absolutely necessary to put on our list, and it's really easy to see why this game tops our list. Alright guys, and there you have it, 10 video games that changed the industry forever. I know that some games are missing off this list, but it was pretty difficult to narrow it down to just 10. Let me know down in the comments below if there's any games that you'd have included on this list that I didn't. But anyways guys, make sure to give us a follow on Twitter if you haven't already. We just passed 100 followers on there, and you guys have been killing it with the support. I love getting the tweets from you guys, and you guys have been liking the tweets that I've been putting out, so that's really, really cool. Thank you guys very much for that. Anyways guys, thank you very much for the support. If you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a thumbs up down below. And if you're new here to the channel, please hit that subscribe button as well to stay up to date with all of our future videos. Anyways guys, this is Tyler from Gamerbrain, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.